Hi everyone, in this video we'll look at how to set up Visual Studio Code before we can use it for coding. We will explore the basic functionalities like creating folders and executing a Python file. Then we'll explore changing the look and feel of Visual Studio Code with the color themes and file icons. Okay, so open up your Visual Studio Code and you should see something familiar. Alright, you can close off the Welcome tab and you will see a more simpler layout of Visual Studio Code for now. Now on the left hand panel, there are a few icons. This area is generally called the activity bars. Alright, a few of these icons that we will use more frequently is the Explorer, followed by the extensions. Alright, so let's click on extensions because we will need to install some extensions so that we can code Python in Visual Studio Code. Alright, so one of these extensions which are important is called the Python. Now, this Python is different from the Python 3.9 which you have installed separately. Alright, this is simply just an extension. So an extension lets us add languages, debuggers, and tools to support our coding workflow. Okay, so there's a couple of other options. For example, if you do not see this Python listed in this popular area or recommended area, you can always search for it. All right, so in the search box, you can type Python and you will see Python being listed. All right, usually the first one based on popularity. So as of the recording of this video, there are 41.4 million installations so far. All right. So let's go ahead and, or maybe before that, let me just remove Python. And you can see that under installed messages, there are no extension that has been installed in our Visual Studio Code so far, right? So let's go ahead and install Python. And I'm going to click install. Okay, it's going to take maybe a couple of minutes. And in the meantime, a couple of things that you can do. First, you can spend some time, do a quick run through on this this quick guide, all right, of how to use Python in Visual Studio. Okay, then we can also search for a next extension which are useful. So what we want to do is we want a extension called the Code Runner. Okay, so type Code Runner, and as soon as installation for Python is complete, we will install Code Runner. All right. Okay, so since Python has completed this installation, you can see that the return message of the installation is this extension is enabled globally. All right. Now let's go ahead and click install for Code Runner. Okay, this is just going to take a couple of seconds. All right, once it's installed, it also returns the message that the extension is enabled globally. Okay. Okay, good. So now let us close the tab. All right, turn off the tab. And let's take a look at, I'm going to go to the search box and I'm going to remove Code Runner because I want to see in installed, okay, what are the extensions being installed. All right, so we have installed Code Runner, and if you scroll down, okay, if you scroll down, you can see Python being installed. All right, this extension comes with additional things such as Jupyter Notebooks, so you can see some of these Jupyter extensions being installed as well. All right, and as well as Pylance. Okay, we will talk more about some of these extensions in time to come. But in the meantime, don't worry about it. Just make sure you have them installed, okay, as a basic setup for Visual Studio Code. Okay, so now that we have the basic extension installed, let us explore some functionalities of Explorer. All right, so let's click on Explorer. Now, in the Explorer, it will actually enable you to prompt you to open folders and files. So there are a few options you can do. You can actually click on Open Folder button, but if sometimes this message does not appear, you can always go to the File tab and click on to Open Folder. Okay, so this will open up Window Explorer and allow you to select any folders you want to open, okay, and list the files inside within this folder. Okay, so now I'm going to click on Documents folder, but I'm going to create one subfolder in Documents, and I'm going to click on New folder, okay, and I'm going to call it P for B, okay, Programming for Business, and I'm going to click Select folder, and I'm going to click Select folder twice. Okay, so once that is done, you can see that the folder of P4B has been created, right? Not just inside Visual Studio, but if you look at your Window Explorer, so I'm going to look at my Documents folder, and I can see that the the P4B folder has been created as a result. All right. Okay, so let's come back to Visual Studio Code. Now, I'm going to close off Welcome tab and just going to focus on this P4B folder. Now, if I hover my mouse, all right, or my cursor on some of these icons on the right, you can see that this would create a new file and the next one would create a new folder. So we can create subfolders in P4B if you wish to. So let's give it a try. All right, so I've clicked on New folder and I call this, say, maybe a subfolder. All right, and now you can see subfolder is being created right within P4B folder. Now I'm going to right click and I'm going to delete this away. All right, so now I'm just going to create another file. I'm going to click on New File icon and I'm going to call this file hello _world. Now, more importantly, you need to specify the extension of this file. Now, because we are going to code in Python, Python has an extension called .py. So we just type .py. All right, notice when I type .py, the Python logo actually appear, right? So Visual Studio will know that you are actually creating a Python file. So it automated to allow you to code later on once this Python file is being created. All right, so I'm going to hit tab button, okay, on my keyboard, and when I hit tab button, okay, you can see that on the right hand side the file of hello-world.py is opened, and the following cursor where it's blinking allow us to enter our codes. Yeah, okay. Now let's try a few simple line of code. Okay, let's start with a function, and this function I would call print. All right, and we will use some of these simple statements to explore the functionalities in Visual Studio Code, so you become more familiar with where are the cursors, where are the buttons that is necessary to use. All right, now as I type print and opened up a set of brackets, more formally we call this a set of parentheses. All right, as I have included a parenthesis, you can see that sometimes Visual Studio Code, because of IntelliSense, it will actually pop up some of these helper message. All right, in this case, it will tell you what is this print, what does this print do, what does it accept, so on and so forth. Not to worry about it, we will cover more when we go into the coding proper topic. All right, so I'm going to hit escape, and when I hit escape, this helper message should go away. All right, so you can do the same if you see some of this helper message because they will pop up from time to time. Okay, next I'm going to include a set of quotation mark. Okay, this is a double quotation. All right, and I'm going to include this word called hello space world and with a exclamation mark. All right, okay. Now before we do that, I'm sorry, I think I want to revisit the extensions. Actually, what I want to do is I want to make sure I save this Py file by going to File, and I'm going to save it. Okay, Now, what I want to do is I want to close this Visual Studio program because sometimes after you install an extension, sometimes the extensions are not being automatically updated. So it helps if you close off the Visual Studio Code and open it one more time, so you refresh the memory of Visual Studio Code. All right, so I'm just going to close this off and I'm going to relaunch Visual Studio Code one more time. Okay, it's just simply clicking the icon and now it's open. All right, so if you have saved the file of hello-world.py, it will leave all the previous settings intact and nothing has changed. Okay, so this is the beauty of a Visual Studio Code. Everything where you left off in the last session will continue when you come back to Visual Studio Code. Okay, so with that out of the way, let us try to execute this line of print hello world. Okay, now notice on the top right corner there is a run code icon. Now beside this run code icon there is a drop down button. You can actually click on the drop down button and you have three options. Now we will only focus on the first two options of run code or run Python file in terminal. Let's see what is the difference. All right, and let's click on the first one called run code. Now as I click run code, notice that there is a panel at the bottom that appears, and the run code will execute this Python file using code runner, because I can see that it says P for B temp code runner file.py. So I know this run code is generally using the extension of code runner, and it will return the print message of hello world, right? And then after that it exceeded the program, and it takes only about 0.192 seconds to execute this whole file. All right, now let's take a look at the difference when we click on run Python file in terminal. Now as you click on run Python file in terminal, you notice a terminal appear. All right, and Visual Studio will launch a PowerShell, or you can call that a command prompt, and it will also execute, okay, out of Visual Studio environment to print out the hello world.py file and return the message hello world exclamation mark, and then includes a new prompt here one more time. All right, now to clear off this terminal message, is useful if you type CLS, hit enter. All right, it will remove the previous printing messages, so it makes your terminal a bit neater. Okay. Okay, let's revisit the output one more time, and I'm going to run I'm going to use my first option of run code a few times, and I'm going to explain as I run the code a couple of times. Okay. So now I execute this code one more time. I execute 2 times, 3 times, and notice as I execute, the history of my first execution will be there. Remember, the first one that we have printed takes 0.192 seconds. Now the second one, slightly longer, all right, by a fraction of milliseconds. And the third one, and the fourth one, and so on. Now you notice that the history of the printing of these messages will be here all the time. So sometimes when we do coding, it makes it quite hard for us to see the latest print because the history is there. Now, if we change something to the settings in Visual Studio Code, we will be able to remove the history of the previous prints, as well as this kind of irritating message like running, done, because I'm not really particular about looking at how long it takes to execute the program. Okay, so this is optional. If you want to remove this message, you can just follow along. All right, now to do that, let's move our cursor to this gear icon. All right, in this gear icon, you click on the gear icon and you select settings. Okay, so follow this quite carefully. Now in this settings, you will see that a tab is open. Now there's nothing to do with this entire area here. What we want is to change the setting manually. So follow the cursor along to the top right corner. Now after the run code icon, I am going to select the middle one. I hover it long enough, it will show me open settings, parentheses, JSON. All right. So I'm going to click on this and you will return to me a pair of curly braces. Now you probably will see the same thing as my return with only one set of parameters settings here, which is window zoom level :4. Okay. Now I'm going to insert 2 lines of code in the settings to change the output that you seen below here. Okay, so I'm going to hit enter at the end of number 4. Okay, and I'm going to insert line 3. Okay, with these 2 lines of code, and I'm going to paste them. All right, now I'm going to just change the alignment a little bit to make sure everything is in order, and I'm going to explain. Now notice there is a wriggly red line at the bottom, meaning that there is some error. So when you see wriggly red line on a code, it is a warning that your code is going to run into some error. So this allows me to look at where are the areas that possibly could be where the error will occur. So if I look at this number 4, I need to include a comma. All right, so every of this line in this curly braces has to be separated by a comma unless you are at the last line. Okay, so in my line 4, all I simply include is this line. Okay, I include a set of quotation mark, and within this quotation mark, I put code-runner.clear previous output, then colon, set it to true. Line number 4, code-runner.show execution message, okay, colon, set it to false. So I'm changing the default settings from the extension which we first installed using these 2 lines of code, so you can follow along. So just ensure that there's no wriggly red line, as well as the quotation marks are being included. You should be fine. All right, once that is done, just go to File and save the settings. So now we can close it, okay, and try to execute this print hello world again and see if the output has changed because of the settings. All right, so I'm going to go to the run code and I'm going to execute this line one more time. Now you can see that the 2 irritating messages of how long it takes to execute and running messages is not there anymore because we have changed the default setting. And let's print one more time. So no matter how many times you try to print, only the latest will be shown in the output. All right. Okay, so this would cover some of the basic functionalities of Visual Studio Code. We can change the look and feel of Visual Studio Code, but it has nothing to do with the functionality. So sometimes we might want to display different colors. Maybe we want our foreground or our background to be a bit lighter and not so dark. And we can do that if we change some of these settings. So this part is optional, and if you would like to follow along, you may. Otherwise, you can stop the video. Okay, so let's take a look at how you can change the look and feel. All right, now there's one shortcut key, and this shortcut key is Ctrl-Shift-P. All right, so let's try to hit Ctrl-Shift-P. Ctrl-Shift-P. Now, when you hit Ctrl-Shift-P, there is this prompt that will appear, and this is called a command padlet. All right, a command padlet. Now, in this command padlet, we can type the functions that we want, and it will search for us rather quickly. So for example, if I want to change the color of my background, I can type color, okay? And what I like to select is this preferences, and it goes to color theme, okay? So let's click on color theme. And now when I'm at color theme, I can toggle my arrow up and down to have a different look and feel of how this color theme changes. So I'm just going to hit the up arrow. All right, as I hit the up arrow, you can see some of this look and feel of the Visual Studio Code would change accordingly. Okay, so Visual Studio Code has is shipped with quite a few of this color theme already, but if you want to do additional color theme, you could also install it. Okay, so let's take a look at additional color themes by installing additional extensions. Okay, so I'm going to hit my down arrow key. All right, and at the last one, it says install additional color themes. Okay, so I'm going to click on install additional color themes. And one of the theme that I like is called Pre-Dawn. Okay, so I'm going to type Pre-Dawn. Okay, it should search the Pre-Dawn theme kit for me. All right, so the first one. All right, and then you can click, you can hit install. Right. So once the installation is enabled, we can see that the color would change. Otherwise, what we could do is we could also close off the Visual Studio Code and see if the extension has been enabled. All right, so let me just quickly do that. I'm just close off Visual Studio Code, and I'm going to launch it one more time. Okay, you may or you may not have to do that. All right. Okay, so nothing seems to happen. So let's hit Command Shift P one more time. I'm sorry, Control Shift P one more time and choose color theme. All right, and I have my Pre-Dawn here. Okay, so maybe I can choose Pre-Dawn GF Markdown, for example. So you see this additional extension would give me extra options of changing the colors. Okay. Okay, I'm going to spend a bit more time to try to change the color I want. Okay, color theme. Maybe I'm going to hit Pre-Dawn, just Pre-Dawn. Okay. Nothing seems to happen for now, so maybe I should just leave it. Okay. Now we can also change some of these file icons like here. Okay. Now same thing. You can hit Control Shift P together and type file icon. Okay, and you can see that file icon theme, okay, will pop up under preferences, and I'll click on file icon theme. It only ships with two options of the file icon theme, so I'm just going to toggle with up and down button. All right, the up and down arrow key to show you the difference. So take note, so you can see that when I change to minimal, this icon on this left hand side would change to a file. If I change to city, it changed to the Python icon. All right, now we can also install additional file icon themes by clicking at the bottom, and I like one of this icon theme called AU, so I'm going to just install AU, and hopefully the extension activates AU. All right, okay, so let me just press escape and see what has changed. Go to Explorer. Okay, nothing seems to have changed at this point in time. So I'm going to try to maybe hit Control Shift P and select file icon theme one more time and choose AU. All right. And I can see that the icon color from blue in Python has changed. Okay, I can close off extension. Okay, so That's all I have for today. So just to recap, we have covered installing the essential extensions, looking through Explorer icon, creating folders, and then a simple Py file, and then we hit execute for run code and run Python file to check the differences. We have gone to the gear icon and changed the default settings in JSON to include these two lines so that we clear our output, which will be useful to us when we are coding later on. All right. Otherwise, if you feel that this is too complicated, you can skip it too. All right. And lastly, we look at using Control-Shift-P to activate a command Padlet, and from there we are able to choose some of these functions we want by either typing, all right, or scrolling down. Okay, and that will enable us to navigate to different functions in Visual Studio Code. And then we have changed the color theme, changed the icon, the file icon. All right, so thank you very much. I'll see you in the next video.